The Senate will now have before it for final consideration House Bill number 231. The Secretary will read the bill.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill 231 by Revenue and Taxation Committee, an act relating to food tax credits and refunds, to increase the amount of the food tax credit, to remove a provision regarding a certain credit, to provide for a food tax.
Senator Ricks.
Yes, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of House Bill 231 be dispensed with, and the journal show it has been read the third time at length, section by section, and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objection, Senator Ricks, you're recognized to open the debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, House Bill 231 increases the grocery tax credit to $155 per person for every Idahoan. Currently, the credit is set at $120 per individual, and then seniors get a little higher, it's at $140. This raises it to where everyone would get the same amount, $155. You might ask, well, why are we raising it to the same amount where the seniors had a little bit more? Anyone who has teenagers knows that they eat more than senior citizens do. You'll realize this increase to $155 when you file your 2025 Idaho taxes starting in January of next year, 2026. Every Idahoan, man, woman, and child, will get the credit when they file their Idaho income tax return. If you are a family of four, you will get back $620 with the increase, whereas currently that would equal $480. With this legislation for a family of four, that would be $620 sales tax rebate, and that's giving back what you pay in the sales tax. So that credit would equal, for a family of four, $10,333 in food purchases. If it's individual, it'd be $155, and that equals roughly $2,583 in grocery purchases. So this is a refundable credit, meaning if you don't owe any Idaho state income tax, you will get this back as a refund. You can get an Idaho grocery credit refund even if you are not required to file an income tax return. If you're an Idaho resident who did not make enough money in 2024 to file an income tax return, you are still eligible to receive a grocery credit refund. You must use the form to claim this credit refund. To find that, you simply can just do an online search for Idaho Tax Commission grocery credit, and you'll be able to find that form easily. This legislation also has a provision in it for those who might feel that they spend a little more in sales tax than $155 per person on qualified food purchases. If you feel like you would spend more than that, you can actually keep your receipts and submit those to the tax commission when you file your taxes and claim up to $250. They will accept scanned receipts when you file your taxes next year if this bill passes. So the physical note is approximately $50 million on this. I would also like to yield my opening time to the senator from 10, who's also sponsoring this.
Senator Nichols, do you yield?
I yield, Mr. President.
Senator Nichols, you have the floor to continue the opening debate.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank the good senator and my co-sponsor from District 34 for that opening. I wanted to touch just on a few things briefly. I support tax cuts. I support giving people back as much money as we possibly can, and I think most of us would echo the same statement. And I would support repealing a food tax as well. My goal here is to make sure that we're giving Idahoans back as much money as we can. this is the path that we have to be able to utilize, and I think it's a good step in the right direction because it does exactly what I'm wanting to accomplish, what many of us want to accomplish, is giving more money back to our constituents. So I support this bill. It has a path forward, and this is the way to be able to accomplish the goal of giving Idahoans back more money. Increasing the food tax credit is a practical and immediate solution that provides direct tax relief to Idaho families, helping them manage some of the rising costs of groceries today. I wanted to just touch on a couple of points that sometimes we just don't think about. And the first thing is Idaho has a lot of tourism. Visitors in Idaho contribute significantly to the grocery tax. In fact, in 2023, tourism contributed to $18.24 million in grocery tax that went directly into Idaho. And that helps support our state's economy and reduces the burden on Idaho residents. Also, back in 2023 also, we have information that non-residents contribute to the grocery tax. In fact, it's estimated that $8.19 million in grocery tax was contributed into the state of Idaho from non-residents, and that's separate from the tourism. Food prices are rising, but we want to make sure that, and we want to make sure that we can help alleviate some of that cost. The bottom line is that we know that this has a direct impact to Idahoans almost immediately. And we know that this bill has a path forward. It has already crossed the from the other side of the body to our side, and so we can go ahead and facilitate this and make sure that Idahoans are getting more of their money back. So this version of this bill highlights that importance of the food tax credit increase as a practical solution. I go out to my district and I talk to people and I ask them, what kind of tax relief do you want to see? And I get all sorts of different responses back: income tax, sales tax, property tax, food tax. What we're doing this year in this session is we're giving a little bit of everything back to the people of Idaho. For instance, my oldest child, I asked him that question and he said income tax. That's the one that he wanted to see because he doesn't get to control how much money is taken out of his paycheck, but he can control how much food he buys, and he doesn't own any property. He rents right now. But the income tax, other people want to see the food tax eliminated, and I understand that too. But right now what we're doing is we're creating a great balance, and we are giving everybody a little bit of everything back. That is the goal that I feel that we're trying to achieve. And so I think this is a great step in the right direction. It provides immediate relief. It's giving Idahoans back money. It is a tax cut, and for that reason I'm supporting this bill. And with that, debate is open, Mr. President.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President,
Senator Cole,
debate against the bill.
you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to the sponsors for bringing forward this bill. I believe their intentions are good. One of the things that stuck out to me in the opening remarks was that this tax relief, this tax credit, was immediate and practical. I think it's actually the opposite. Senators, we're adding $35 to the food tax credit. The food inflation started to rise over half a decade ago. This to me doesn't seem like adding $35 to the food credit 5 years later is immediate. And I don't think it's practical either, because you are asking Idahoans to take their money, government is taking their money at the cash register, and then it's only getting returned at a smaller percentage over a year later. I don't think that's practical. I don't think it's practical that some Idahoans do better than others with this food credit. This food credit makes winners of some and losers out of many. That's because some large families, they do better with this food credit, and that's touted as a win by some of the proponents. And I understand the thought that we want to support large families, but The truth is, it's redistributive in nature. Who really bears the burden of the grocery tax? It's seniors. It's folks who are single, folks who are retired and may not file taxes anyways, and they may not know about being able to file for it individually. That's the problem with this food credit. Another issue I have, Mr. President, is the additional $95 that people can apply for if they keep all their receipts. You have to keep all your receipts through the entire year and then itemize them line by line to find the SNAP-defined foods in that. If you bought toothpaste on your grocery run, you have to make sure that isn't applied when you send your list of receipts to the tax commission every year. And I might make note, it's 2025. I don't know too many people who are keeping boxes and boxes of their receipts. This is the definition of impractical. In fact, Mr. President, it will take hours for Idahoans to manage the receipt process for this portion of the bill. It is truly bookkeeping for breadcrumbs. Mr. President, for those reasons, I cannot support this bill.
Thank you. Is there further debate?
Mr. President.
Senator Zito.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand here and I want to make a change. I feel like we are doing the same things over and over and over again, expecting different results. That's insanity. So instead of giving our Idahoans their money back, why don't we let them keep it at the register? It's time to allow them to say, hey, I'm saving a little bit of money here at the register. Now I can maybe go, that single mom can go buy a little extra diapers. Why do our constituents continually have to beg for their money back through tax credits, through any kind of credits? Everything's done through credits. This is something that we could do as a body, Mr. President, to give them instant relief. Some of the other things that are not discussed, as you know, that we talk about tourism and the money that we get from them, that's only 5%. That means 95% of Idahoans are paying the tax. Another thing that's not actually talked about is how much money do we lose on our border cities that go across to other states that do not have grocery tax and buying their groceries there. And then they come back home and then now they can get the credit. We're not counting that. What is the number that we're losing there? You know, we have the percentage and how much money we're making on tourism, but how much are we losing on our border cities? Again, I always feel like we're not fighting for our Idahoans because of tourism. Maybe because, you know, they're a lot of our illegal immigrants, they're also paying those taxes. But what about us fighting for Idaho citizens? How about let's say that we're going to fight for you this time. We see that you're hurting. Inflation is killing them. I know a lot of people that are moving back in with family members because they can't afford the inflation. It's time to start fighting for them and stop fighting for our government. I mean, we're not even making cuts, really, in our government. We can make some serious cuts. They're making cuts. They're not getting the new tires this year. They're not getting the maybe the new clothes this year. You know, they're making cuts because of inflation. So I think that we should lead by example. I think as senators, we should say, hey, we are going to give you immediate tax relief. And I'm just tired of them having to beg for their money back. And many of them don't beg for it back because it's a lot of work. And so with that, I'll be voting no on this.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President,
Senator Lanning.
to debate the bill.
You have the floor, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. It was stated, Mr. President, that this makes winners and losers of some people, and it's redistributive all tax is a redistribution of wealth, any tax and all taxes. And as much as I would love to get rid of any and all taxes, including the grocery tax, that's not what we're talking about here. What we're discussing here is, should we give $50 million in taxpayer money back to the taxpayers? This is a bill that says we are giving Idaho residents $50 million of their own money back. I think that's a win, Mr. President, the way I look at it. Now, the part about keeping receipts and all that, I do agree with the senator from 25. That is a bit much, in my opinion. But the initial part says we are raising it from $120 per person per household. For me, I did the math, Mr. President. I have 4 kids and a wife, family of 6. This makes us whole, where currently we're kind of coming up short with the grocery credit. But doing this from 120 to 155 per person, that makes us whole with what we spend on groceries. So I think it's giving people their money back. This is what we talk about all the time. Why would we not want to do this? So I think it's a great bill, Mr. President, and I encourage everyone to join me in voting yes on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further debate? Senator Zito.
Thank you, Mr. President. Idaho is one of only 4 states in the country that charge taxes on groceries. Mississippi, South Dakota, and Hawaii. Nearly every other state has figured out that this is just not a good idea. This means that Idaho businesses are losing customers to other states. The claim that grocery stores will raise their prices by 6% if we repeal the grocery tax has been proven to be simply not true. Other states have not raised their grocery prices. It's time for Idaho to catch up. Since 2017, Idahoans have paid over $2 billion in grocery taxes. In the last 5 years alone, the state collected $1.68 billion in grocery taxes and only returned $823 million in credits, just over half of what was taken. If the grocery tax credit were repealed, that would be immediate relief. Our people wouldn't have to wait a year to file their taxes to get it back. Why is it okay for the government to take our money, hold on to our money, process our money, pay someone to take care of it, and then divvy it back to us if and when we file our taxes or ask for the credit back? Our Idaho budget has increased 55% in just 5 years. We can afford to make cuts somewhere else so that we can not give money back to our people, but allow people to keep their money. Mr. President, with that, I move to send House Bill 231 to the 14th order of business to fully repeal the grocery tax and remove the rebate. And I would request
I object.
Well, a motion's always in order, and so we have a motion to move it to the 14th order. It's been seconded by Senator Zeiderfeld. Debate is open,
I would like to speak to my motion, Mr. President.
and it has to be narrow.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I just want to stress that this is not a hostile motion, that 87% of the people across our state want to repeal the tax on food. The gentleman on the second floor once said that removing the grocery tax is the right thing to do. This body passed a repeal in 2017, and it was vetoed. This is our opportunity for full repeal of the grocery tax.
Thank you. Is there further debate on the motion to send 231 to the 14th order?
Yes, Mr. President,
Senator Ricks,
to debate against the motion.
you have the floor.
Senators, this is a hostile move. This was not coordinated with the sponsors here. We have intent to try to move the bill as it is. We'd like to do that. I encourage your nay vote on this. This is not the right move.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President.
Senator Nichols,
Debate on the motion.
you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. There is no path forward to repealing the grocery tax. We know that. So we're at the point in this time where we're either going to give the people of Idaho back something or nothing at all. And so I don't support this motion.
Thank you. Is there further debate on the motion to refer 231 to the 14th order? Senator Zito.
Mr. President, I would like to say that there is a path forward with this repeal. And that is us as a body going forward and saying that we are finally going to fight for our constituents and give them relief at the register.
Is there further debate on the motion?
Mr. President,
Senator Hart,
Mr. President, debate against the motion.
you have the floor.
Mr. President, may I refer to two pieces of legislation from the 2007 session?
Did they pass?
They passed the body.
Oh, well, if they're in, without objection, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. In 2007, I co-sponsored House Bill 82, a bill to get rid of the grocery tax in its entirety. There was another member of the legislature who did a lot more work than I did, and he sponsored House Bill 81. Probably most of you know who that is. And that bill was going to establish a grocery tax credit. I think it was the first attempt at a grocery tax credit. It passed the House 62-7. It passed the Senate 34-0. The Senate amended it like they did all bills back in that day. And it went back to the House, passed the House 63-6. And I debated against that bill for about a half an hour until somebody wanted to go to lunch and made me be quiet. Because I thought it was way better to eliminate the grocery tax in totality. So anyways, this bill in 2007 passed the Senate 34-0, like I said, but the gentleman on the second floor vetoed it. So nothing got done that year. That bill, even though the gentleman who drafted the bill did a huge amount of work, got it through both bodies of the legislature, it still didn't get done because the gentleman on the second floor vetoed it. I think House Bill 231 has a path forward, and it's the path that we've been on
But we're
since
not
then.
debating 231. We're debating whether or not to send it to the 14th order.
Okay.
Okay.
I believe if we do not send it to the 14th order, we have a way to get some grocery tax relief this year. I think if we do send it to the 14th order, we're going to come up empty-handed. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there further debate on the motion to refer to the 14th?
Mr. President, I have a question. When I made my motion, I asked for a roll
So
call.
this is like a point of order.
Order, yes.
There will be a roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Senator Lenny,
to debate the motion.
you have the floor.
I think I actually don't know how I'm going to vote on the motion, honestly. But I think it is worth noting that this, Mr. President, for those who might not understand this or whatever, it's worth noting that this motion to move the grocery tax credit bill to the 14th order is not a move to repeal the grocery tax. All it does is move it from here to here. Now, when it's in the 14th order, as you well know, Mr. President, we could do anything we want with it. We could make ice cream the national food of Idaho. We could add polar bears as the national animal or state animal. We could turn it into an Article 5 bill. Anyone can do anything they want in the 14th order. So I thought it was worth noting that because Mr. President, I know what the headlines are going to be regarding who votes which way on this. It's going to be people who voted against the motion don't want grocery tax repeal, and people who voted for it do. When that is not the case here, Mr. President, how do I know? Because this happened on the other side of Rotunda, and those were the headlines. So, again, I don't honestly know how I'm going to vote on it, but I think hijacking somebody else's bill is not the proper way to go about doing this,
Objection is
Mr. President.
overruled. Continue with your debate on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I mean, if we want to repeal the grocery tax, which I support, let's do it the right way and run a grocery tax repeal bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there further debate on the motion? Senator Shippey.
To debate in favor of the motion, I want to start with saying I have the utmost respect for the senator from District 10 and the senator from District 34 and I mean no disrespect in supporting this motion. I'm from District 9. We're a border district. And so when it comes to this issue in my district, this isn't so much about which is the best way to tax the people. I sat down with the Fruitland City Mayor to get legislative priorities, and one of the top legislative priorities was repealing the grocery tax. Why? Because in Fruitland, we can't get a grocery store because we're right across the river from Oregon where there is no grocery tax.
Okay, we're straying from the motion.
So I'm explaining my reason, I guess, why I'm supporting the motion to send it to the 14th order. As was pointed out, that doesn't immediately make it become a grocery tax repeal bill, but that, just to explain why I am supportive of this, there's probably very few issues where I would support a motion like this, but I feel, being from District 9, it is my duty to vote on any way that I can to repeal the grocery tax in Idaho for the sake of the constituents of District 9. This is something they really want.
Thank you. Is there further debate on the motion? Hearing none, Senator Zito, you may close the debate on your motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'm not doing this to grandstand or anything else. This is a promise I made to my people, to do all I could to get grocery tax repeal. Is there a path forward? I see a path forward just like any other bill that we work on in this legislation, in this legislature. And this motion to move this to the 14th order, to amend it, to repeal the grocery tax and to repeal the rebate is a true path forward to serve the people of the state of Idaho like many of us in here have said we would. Thank you, Mr. President. Debate is closed.
Mr. President, point of order. Clarify the question before the body.
The question
Is the question before the body that we support the repeal of the grocery tax, or is the question whether we send the piece of legislation to the 14th order?
The question before the body is whether or not we send it to 14th order for possible amendment. Now, I have been a little lenient, I will admit, as you describe why you want to send it there. And the debate is closed on that motion. So the question before you is whether or not you want to send it to the 14th Amendment for possible amendment. A yes vote sends it, a no vote continues the debate on 231. The Secretary will call the roll on the motion.
Adams? No. Anthem? No. Byrne? No. Bjerke? No. Blaylock? Yes. Burtonshaw? No. Carlson? No. Cook? Den Hartog? No. Foreman? No. Galloway? No. Grow? No. Guthrie? No. Harris? No. Hart? No. Kaiser? No. Cole? Aye. Lakey? No. Lenny? Lent? No. Matthews? No. Nichols? No. Okonowitz? Ricks? No. Ruckty? Samaroff? No. Shippey? Aye. Taylor? Taves? No. Van Orden? No. Wardingle King? No. Wintrow? No. Woodward? No. Zito? Aye. Seiderveld? Yes. Lenny? No. Ruckty? Taylor?
The vote count shows 5 in favor with 28 against and 2 absent. The motion has failed. Is there further debate on 231?
Mr. President.
Senator Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just did, because I like numbers, I wanted to catch up on a few. We did raise the grocery tax credit, not long ago, maybe 5 years ago. And we went from $100 to $120. So that's a 20% increase in the grocery tax credit. Today, we're voting on a 29% increase in the grocery tax credit. In the last decade, inflation has been a cumulative 34%. So I think we are making an effort here. We're trying to get ahead, at least get that caught up for folks, and realizing the advantages of collecting the grocery tax from those who come in from out of state, have an effect and place a burden on our services. One other number that caught my ear that I've heard a number of times, in fact quite a bit through the last campaign cycle, was that our state budget has gone up by 55% in the last 4 or 5 years. That number includes the money that we sent back to taxpayers. We all know how the budget process works here. Anything that we appropriate is then, from the perspective of this building, is an expense. So when we have sent back over $1 billion to the taxpayers of Idaho in the form of 3 different tax rebates, that's included in a 55% increase, along with the money we put in the budget stabilization fund that we didn't spend, but instead moved from the checking account to the savings account. So that 55% number doesn't work for me. I do oppose the bill, or excuse me, support raising the grocery tax credit. Thank you, Mr.
Is there further debate?
Mr. President, to debate a second time.
Does anyone wish to debate the bill for the first time?
Mr. President.
Senator Den Hartog.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, there's a handful of us on this floor that have lived this debate and discussion, and it's been an interesting one over the years. I was slow to come around to treating this particular policy with this particular solution, I will admit. I have been on this floor, can't speak this afternoon, on this floor supporting the repeal of the sales tax on food. Some of my former colleagues spent years working on the particulars of that piece of legislation, of defining food, working with the retailers to make sure we could handle it at the cash register. And as we have seen those attempts fail over the years for various reasons, some unique and interesting, and one of those which will lead us here in a couple of weeks to take a break for 5 days and then come back. All of that goes back to the action in 2017 when this Senate did a radiator cap and amendment on an income tax cut bill. So, Senators, what I'm interested in today is providing relief to the taxpayers of the state of Idaho. And this is the vehicle and this is the path that we can do this. We are now on this path of having a grocery tax credit, and I think an increase in the credit is appropriate for the citizens and taxpayers of Idaho, and I urge your support.
Thank you. Is there further debate?
Mr. President,
Senator Blaylock.
I just support getting as much money back to my constituents as possible, although I would prefer a full grocery tax repeal because I think a full repeal would truly benefit the families that need it most. The $40, $50, $60 back a month, in the month, back in their budget, that's what's needed, not waiting and getting that money back at the end of the day or at the end of the year. So I'm bummed that we're not voting on a full tax grocery tax repeal today, but I will be voting yes because, and I hope you will as well, because again, this is what's in front of us, and it gets more money back to my constituents. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there further debate?
Mr. President,
Senator Shippey,
to debate in favor of the bill.
and you haven't debated on the bill itself. You have the floor to debate, Senator Shippey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the comments from the senator from 11. I feel the same way. Obviously, it's no secret that I would have preferred a different route, but this does help Idaho families, even if it's a small amount. So I think this isn't bad. It maybe isn't best, but this isn't bad. So I will be supporting it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there further debate?
Mr. President, to debate a second time.
Senator Heiderfeld, you have the floor to debate for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll make it short, but not so sweet.
Well,
I just want to go on a record that Idaho receives $203 million in grocery tax revenue, and we are only going to be giving back $50 million. I mean, this is on this part. I know it's a little bit more, but we receive $203 of grocery tax revenue, and I just feel like we're really giving our constituents breadcrumbs.
is there further debate? Hearing none. Senator Ricks, good lady from 10. Senator Rick's closing. Senator Rick, you're recognized to close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I appreciate the debate and the discussion today. Several of you have debated, appreciate that. There is certainly an intent and an idea here that we want to try to make and give back what Idahoans pay in sales tax. There certainly is two ways to do this, and yes, this has been kicked around I came in the legislature in 2018 across the rotunda and the other body, and bills were brought forth then to repeal or to increase the credit, and it seems like the credit has always survived and won out. I don't think either way is bad. I think both ways are good. I do look at them that they're probably 80% on the same page of what they do and whatnot as far as the good goes. And so I do look at this as a win for Idahoans. Again, when you file your taxes, you're going to get that back. You got to keep in mind when you talk about tax on groceries that a lot of items that you buy in the grocery store would still be taxable even if we removed and exempted tax on food. So typically in other states, I know when the discussion came up years ago in committee that I was in, Utah has removed a portion of sales tax, most of it on their food, but they have a 28-page manual that determines what items are food items, what is and what's not. And so it's created a whole nother little bureaucracy and competition in the food stores of the suppliers of what items qualify for food that's tax exempt versus what items are not. So by doing the credit like we do, we eliminate a lot of the politics of that, a lot of the jockeying in the stores. For example, items that are prepared foods, oftentimes many of you probably pick up a cooked chicken, right? Rotisserie chicken of some sort or a cooked one. Those would be still taxable. Food you buy in the deli in the grocery store would still be taxable. You still pay tax on that. The pizzas that are prepared in the grocery store, the ones you take home and bake, would still be taxable. And any fast food items that you get, any food items you buy in typically like a Maverick or grocery or what's the word anyway, the smaller stores, the convenience stores, thank you, you would still pay tax on those. And so a lot of people don't take that in consideration when they're determining whether, they would get a bigger rebate if they kept their receipts, or whether they just turned around and not had the tax removed completely. So I think this is a fair amount. There's been a lot of study on this about the inflation, about the average amount people pay in tax and buy in food. I think we're pretty good at these numbers. There's no doubt if the inflation continues and food prices continue to rise, we'll probably be back here in a year or two talking about maybe increasing it more. But this is a win for Idahoans, and I think we have a responsibility to try to match. And we've made that commitment to remove the tax on food through the rebate. And I encourage anybody who does not file their income taxes to go on to the state tax site's the tax commission's website and download that form and fill it out and send it in. You can get that rebate back. But with that, I urge your support. Debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall House Bill 231 pass the Senate? The Secretary will call the roll.
Adams. Aye. Anthon.
Aye.
Berndt. Aye. Bierke. Aye. Blaylock. Burtonshaw. Aye. Carlson. Aye. Cook. Aye. Den Hartog. Foreman. Aye. Galloway. Aye. Grove. Aye. Guthrie. Aye. Harris. Aye. Hart. Aye. Kaiser. Aye. Cole. Aye. Lakey. Aye. Lenny. Aye. Lent. Aye. Matthews. Aye. Nichols. Aye. Okonowitz. Aye. Ricks. Aye. Ruckte. Semroth. Aye. Shippey. Aye. Taylor. Taves. Aye. Van Orden? Ward Ingleking? Wintrow? Woodward? Zito? Seiderveld? Ruckte? Taylor?
Roll call shows 30 aye, 3 nay, 2 absent and excused. A majority have voting in the affirmative. House Bill 231 has passed the Senate. Is there a correction to title? Hearing none, the title is approved, and House Bill 231 will be returned to the House.